All right, I believe we are live. We'll do a check, but I think the big dog has got a straight. Clip Brock, Mike Mullis in the Pirate Radio studios. I'm just back from Town Bank Tower, where the Pirate baseball team found out their fate, and what a fate it is. Mike Mullis was about to cut some grass, but had a great idea. You know, we should be here. We should be talking about this. This is a pretty darn big deal. And I said, all right, Mully, meet me at the studio. Let's knock it out. And here you are, Mully. Thanks for the great idea, and how you doing, man?
Yeah, good. Everything's good. It was so funny. Obviously, I'm probably more locked in than most folks. But as I'm watching it, my phone is just blowing up. People text me, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" I was like, that's when I shot you the text. But anyway, yeah, this is we set it off there. This is like a Disney-worthy kind of scenario to see the Pirates get an 8 seed, to see them. I mean, let's go back to see them hosting. At one point, we were hoping that they got in
as an at-large,
an at-large, and it looked like some projections had them as a 3 going to UVA. How the times have changed now.
Oh, we had that discussion because years ago we were a 3 in Charlottesville and won it, and we were, hey, we've done that before.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we kind of locked ourselves into a 2,
right,
and then a host, and then today, I mean, while they're announcing the top 8. Igo, who follows this closer than just about anybody, like he's chatting me up, like he's not thinking there's a chance we're a top 8, and I was kind of in the same ballpark with him, and we both kind of looked, and we're all looking. Even Cliff Godwin said his brain had to make sure he was seeing what he thought was to be true, which is East Carolina a top 8 national seed.
Well, and I would have thought, and not my thoughts alone, but what was out there was as a 12 or 13 if it was a host situation. So to get to an 8 seed is, I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it. And I'm going to tell you, everything happened the way it had to happen for the Pirates to be in this position. In other words, yes, they took care of their business, but there were some really fortunate losses by other teams that allowed this to happen. And when I say fortunate from the standpoint of Pirate baseball, but there were a lot of things that happened ahead of them that allowed this to come to pass.
Just yesterday, right? I think there was an SEC result that might have helped East Carolina, and I believe was it Big 12 result as well. Everything kind of fell into place for the Pirates as they were winning 18 in a row.
And you look at the ACC, a team like Notre Dame, who is 2/3 of the year forecasted to host, and then you had UVA forecasted to host. Well, they stumble in the conference tournament. Then you have Carolina State match off in the championship. Carolina playing as well as they did helped East Carolina. And they, very similarly, those two teams came down the stretch. I mean, it was a Kentucky Derby finish with both of them going neck and neck, and as far as wins, and I mean, it's incredible to see. And we talked about it a little bit too. Obviously, there's no state in the field, which is kind of an interesting turn of events as well.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny moment. The players were shocked that state didn't get in. We're right there beside them, and one of the ECU players looked at the first 4 out and saw Old Dominion, NC State, who was the first team, the top team on that list, and said, "Man, we're 0-4 against those teams this year."
Right.
And we're number 8. North Carolina goes 2-1 against ECU this year, and ECU gets a better seed than North Carolina.
And look, a week ago, as East Carolina was looking like they may host, the number 2 coming in here was going to be State, and then there was the number 2 coming in here was going to be Carolina.
So they went the opposite route of ECU throughout the whole thing, and it's just. It's pretty shocking. I'm still shocked, Molly. You think about all the teams of the past, and Big Dog Glenn was talking about what year, Glenn? 2019.
Yeah.
Where Cliff was upset. His team was not a top 8 national seed. Was that the year they got sent to Louisville? I guess.
I think that's right.
And was this a makeup call? I don't know about that. But all these teams and all these great players East Carolina's had, and this is the team that gets that top 8 national seed. It's crazy.
Well, and what you cannot deny is the body of work. And so as the schedule came out, and I think you and I talked about it when the schedule was first published, we're like, man, this is kind of a tough road to hoe here. But this is why Cliff has done this.
It paid off.
He wants his guys to play the best. He wants them to understand how to compete against the best. The conference was not what it has been historically, but the non-conference kind of propped that up. I remember standing, talking to Cliff and Jeff prior to LeClaire Classic, and and they were fretting at that point, but that to me was a big turning point for them. Some big wins against Michigan and Maryland in that. So I mean,
Maryland turned out to be a really big win.
Maryland's hosting. Maryland had 125 home runs this year. I saw that today. I was like, man, that's banging it. But I mean, the turnaround is something of legend. I mean, it really is. I mean, if Cliff Godwin's not the coach of the year, I mean, I don't know who you give it to. And I mean the national coach of the year. I don't know who you give it to. When they're doing this, like I was riding over thinking, this pitching staff is set up perfect for tournament play. Almost because you don't have defined roles, guys are just ready to go at any minute. Yeah, any guy could start any game.
Cliff even said he was happy about that at the press conference because now we can't. Every time you get to a regional, like, well, do you save your ace?
Yeah, there's no word about that.
yeah.
And quite frankly, you may see the same guys go game one as go game two, right? Because you win game one, you got to break. I mean, all these things. Man, it's just really worked out well. We felt like when the Pirates were struggling, especially offensively, we were like, man, they just need a guy. Like, somebody needs to step up. They're waiting on
somebody to follow.
Yeah, they're waiting on Connor Norby, or they're waiting on Francisco or Packard or Burleson or however far back you want to go. Well, then all of a sudden, Hoover was he was being that guy, but he's kind of quietly that guy, right? He's not banging balls off the wall, hitting balls out of the park. Well, then you see Agnos, and you see Bryson, and
Bryson for a period was that guy that you were talking about.
Yeah, and we felt like that even before they kind of accepted those roles, we felt like those were the guys that had to lead this team, and that's what we've seen happen. And then Jenkins, Coward, and Makarovich, all of a sudden this lineup feels like the Bronx Bombers. I mean, it feels like they're pretty offensive top to bottom. I mean, Ben Newton. Think about the turnaround Ben Newton had. Yeah. He was hitting like $190. Now, I don't know where he's at right now, but I know he's had some extremely quality at-bats and has had some clutch hits. But, I mean, it's really impressive what's going on over there.
You can chime in with us here on Facebook Live and on YouTube. And Steve on YouTube says the number 8 team found players stranded in Charlotte last night. Needs to be fixed. That speaks group of 5. I said it should never happen. I was told that the reason that they couldn't get the short flight from Charlotte to Raleigh is because they didn't have a co-pilot. So they ended up having to take like 3 vehicles back to Greenville. So they went on 3 different groups almost, and a couple of them had pretty easy travel, and the other got in about 5 a.m. this morning, so it was pretty rough.
And all that stuff's part of the stories.
It adds to the 30 for 30.
And those dudes will tell these stories from now on. Man, you remember when this happened? And I mean, and I know Cliff. I'm sure he was fired up. But at some point, he's like, "Boys, we've been facing adversity. This is just one more thing."
He eats it for breakfast.
Yeah, it is one more log for the fire.
You can chime in with your thoughts. Jonathan says the 18-game win streak was a huge factor. If they slip up on if they lose one of those, they're not a top 8. So they needed every last one of them.
And it's like I said, you cannot. The body of work is undeniable. The way they took care of business is undeniable. The way the baseball gods deemed to let a lot of other things happen around them is incredible. So I mean, and so the number one question, the question I've been asked already. So what do you think about our bracket?
Yeah,
and so I had a buddy text me and he says, what about Coastal? And I said, well, Coastal's a quality baseball team, and we kind of blah. He said, well, they seem like they would be kind of maybe a sneaky under the radar. Well, first off, around here, because we've likened ourselves so much to the fact that Coastal could win the World Series, so I think the East Carolina fan base is uber aware of what Coastal does. Mm-hmm. Well, Coastal, anybody at this point can get hot and do anything. I think we get a little bit of a gift, if you will, opening with Coppin State, a team that has a losing record overall. They were 3 or 4 games up in the conference, which they're in the MEAC conference, which is not exactly the greatest baseball conference in the world. I think Coastal Carolina is kind of Jekyll and Hyde-ish. I know that speaking with a guy from another team that played against them and had great success against them, he's like, well, they were okay. It's not But we saw a kind of an okay Coastal team do this when they went on the run. So
Virginia is the team that
is
7 days ago, 10 days ago, we thought we might be going there.
100%.
So they're a good team.
I mean, and it's UVA, and I think obviously it brings Kevin McMullen back to town. I think that also kind of adds to the story. Coach McMullen coached Coach Godwin with Coach Leclerc. So I mean, all these things are always the kind of interesting things that happen.
They'll be asked about ECU beating them in the Charlottesville Regional years ago, and that coaching staff is still the same, right?
So the pitching guys changed, but
okay.
But what we have to be aware of is that when we went up there as the 3 seed and won that, the wild card factor there was William and Mary beat UVA twice, and we played William and Mary for the championship with a loss to give.
Yeah.
So I say that to say, don't overlook a Coppin State. Don't overlook Look, if they're still alive at this point, they have a chance to beat you. I can just about promise you, Coppin State's going to roll out a number 1 arm that's going to be pretty decent. I mean, they wouldn't be in this position without that. So that's who the Pirates have to open up with. They have to be ready, and they will be. I think it's also interesting that probably the information from a scouting report standpoint that comes out of the MEAC is probably going to be a lot more vague than it would be if it was coming out of the.
As far as us getting info on them,
I think the info that we could. So if I wanted to watch UVA play, I could go. ESPN Plus, and there's every game is archives.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's going to be the same possibility for Coppin State, and if it is, it's probably not going to be quite the camera work that you would expect in a UVA game. But so the information we may be able to get out of that, as far as the coaches getting advanced work, may not be quite what they could get elsewhere. But quite frankly, neither is the talent level of that team as we're comparing it to a UVA.
Pirate Al says every domino fell perfectly. I've been watching Pirate baseball for 40 years. Is the best defensive team we've had from top to bottom. He says that gets overlooked sometimes. The defense was on display all week in Florida. Sports Center top 10 had
3
ECU
times.
on. Yeah, at least
3 times.
And the Zach Agnos play was awesome, where he makes the tag spins, throws to Ben Newton for the double play.
The Jenkins Cowart catch, and obviously what Bryson did.
I asked Jacob Jenkins Cowart about the spike, and he says Ben Terwilliger did it earlier this season after a win, and he said it looked cool and he thought he'd do it, and then he says now on replay it looks like I just mistakenly threw the ball into the ground. It didn't look as cool as he thought it did, but they showing some emotion out there, having fun, and it was what a week in Florida, Mully, as the Pirates once again trailed in 2 of those 4 wins at least.
I mean, go figure. Yeah, and you go back into the regular season. I think I would guess over the last 10 games we probably trailed in 5 of them. I mean, I don't know that to be a fact, but I know that it's a large, but it's at least half of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's again, what they've done, man, is just it's unbelievable. And that goes back to conversations that have been had as well before, where the fan base here just kind of expects regionals and expects that we're going to host and expect. Folks, if you've not taken a chance to really drink one in and appreciate how special something is, this is like as amazing as it gets. Anything that I've seen in my sporting life, what they've done from a turnaround standpoint to get to where they are is nearly undescribable. And we joke about it being a 30 for 30 or a Disney worthy deal. Man, at some point, and look, if we need to do it, we'll put it together. A documentary needs to be done on what happened here this year.
Igo says if they get to Omaha, he's writing a book. Hey, Cliff is still getting on me about not believing on the team, and we'll have interviews out later today. You'll hear the press conferences with Cliff, and a lot of the players did a one-on-one with Ryder Giles. He said he and Carter Spivey were talking about it during the season, and Ryder, now this is his story. He claims that he said, look, we could run the table here. We could still host. We could do all that. And he said that Spivey said, nah, no chance. You're talking about guys on the team. You're talking about the AAC pitcher of the year.
Let me ask you this: if you ask Spivey going into the year, would he be the AAC pitcher of the year? I don't know that he would have been committal to that. But no, I mean, look, it's a thing of legend.
East Carolina, the 8 seed, as we look way, way, way ahead, Mully, at who ECU is lined up with. That's
Austin,
important,
right?
And that would be the Austin Regional. The Texas Longhorns are the 9 overall seed. In their bracket, they have Louisiana Tech, Dallas Baptist, who you only hear about this time of year.
That's right.
And Air Force. So if they match up, I asked Malcolm, I was asking Malcolm and Igo, every time ECU gets in a super regional, other than that Texas Tech year, they match up against some top end arms, and I said, does Texas have that? And Malcolm said, yeah, they got at least one, but they also have, he reminded me of that big first baseman and I said, wait, the guy with the nickname, and it's the Hispanic Titanic.
Yeah, the dude that's
a great nickname,
hit the ball 570 some feet or whatever.
So if East Carolina can get by Virginia, Coastal Carolina, Coppin State, they would be home for the winner of the Austin Regional. Man,
yeah, it's a big if, but I mean, at this point, the only thing that keeps coming to my mind is the movie Miracle. You know, it's, do you believe in miracle? I mean, just from what's going on, man. I continue to kind of wax poetic about it, but if you've never been involved in anything like that, where you're trying to grind through a stretch with an end goal, and I mean, it's balancing so many things. And I bet some of these dudes, they are so entrenched in their rituals, which a lot of folks tend to call us baseball folks superstitious. But they want to continue to do whatever they did yesterday to have success. They want to do it again today. It's probably mind-numbing.
Yeah. Jonathan points out Quinnipiac knocking off East Carolina. Quinnipiac. And East Carolina had to fight themselves out of the losers bracket and come back and win that thing. Wes says, I think I talked to you about this, Mully. If not, we'll bring it up now. You always hear the phrase like a team peaked too early. Now we're towards the end of this thing. I don't know, but like, is the win streak good at this point? Do you need to lose one somewhere in there?
No,
is there? I don't think there's any more added pressure on that now because the records are kind of out of the window.
That is the beauty of this situation. Is right now, man, you're 0-0.
Yeah,
everybody's 0-0. You're going to line up to play, a 5-win season to try to get, if you can win straight through, to get to Omaha. And then you get to Omaha and the same thing. You re-slick and go, okay, let's just roll them out there and see what happens. So, I mean, I think right now it's – and what I've seen with this team, too, is sometimes when you get on those hot streaks, it can be fluky, right? Like things happen that are really fluky, weird, like great bounces, ball by. There have been things that have happened, but a lot of what has happened positively have been because of the effort of the team,
right?
The great defensive plays,
make their own luck.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is, instead of a peak, I think it's a little more of a plateau, and I think if they could stay there and sustain, man, this thing could be just crazy to watch.
All right, Kyle, Mo, coaches in the community and talk to folks. He says, any truth to the rumor that Gilmore from Coastal and Cliff do not get along? Or is that a bad rumor?
I do not know the answer to that. I can tell you this from having been around both of them. They're very different from each other. Gilly's been there for an awful long time, and he's very old school. Not that Cliff's not old school, but there's, quite frankly, and maybe I'm speaking out of school, but that wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know that to be a fact.
ECU played in a regional at Coastal years and years ago, right?
Oh.
I'm trying to recall.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I
think I remember being down there.
It would make sense,
South Carolina.
Yeah.
But have not seen them on the schedule. Like, it would seem like that'd be a pretty good yearly matchup. So I don't know if there's anything to that or not.
No.
All right. If you got questions, comments, you can get them in. Facebook or YouTube will be here. Another 15, 20, whatever,
sure.
As long as you want us to be here. Let's look at them real quick, Mully. So the Knoxville Regional. What do you think about the teams in there? Campbell is the 3 there, Georgia Tech the 2, Alabama State the 4 seed there. I was nervous about Campbell being here in Greenville, I'm not going to lie. Even though East Carolina handled them during the regular season, we know how good they are. Things get chirpy. They can kind of get in the heads. There was a lot of talking going on.
Let me tell you something. That Campbell-Tennessee game could be as fun to watch. They are very, very similar from the chirpiness and the...
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The difference is Tennessee's got a little more talent. Campbell kind of sputtered there early on too. But man, if I got to pick an upset to somebody that I like that's going to go toe to toe with Tennessee, man, I really believe it's Campbell. I think that they have done a good enough job creating their culture in Bowie's Creek that they truly believe it does not matter.
Molly, the 1 seed matches up with the 16 regional. That would be Georgia Southern, the Statesboro Blues. Georgia Southern is the one. Last night, after the regional hosts were announced, the people who follow this closer than I says Notre Dame, if anybody, got the snub. And they are the 2 there in Statesboro. Texas Tech, the 3. And Billy G, Hunter Allen, UNC Greensboro, the 4 there at Georgia Southern.
So, interestingly, Greg Hardison, local Rose High, Gregory Hardison, Greg Hardison's son, Rose High product, and in his senior year, I guess his 6th year at UNC Greensboro with the COVID year, if I'm not mistaken, he was the last class recruited by Link Jarrett, and we'll have a reunion with
that's right,
with Link Jarrett at Notre Dame. In Statesboro as Notre Dame goes to Georgia Southern. Also curious as to where Georgia Southern will host. Maybe they're going to beef up their home park, but I don't know if you remember watching the game there when we went to Statesboro this year. The lighting was pretty brutal, and the broadcast was awful. But obviously, that broadcast will be ESPN exclusive. But anyway, it was kind of an interesting story there.
All right, ECU Texas, the 8-9. I'll run over the other ones real quick. Texas A&M is the 5. They host the College Station Regional with TCU, Louisiana, Oral Roberts. Any thoughts there, Mike?
Yeah, and interesting too. Jim Schlossnagel that was at TCU. Actually, Randy Macy was with Schlossnagel at TCU. Schlossnagel took the job at Texas A&M. This is his first year as the head coach in A&M, and he's got his former team coming to his place to play.
This always happens, and I don't follow baseball like I do basketball. This happens in the NCAA tournament where teams won't schedule each other, like Ohio State and who's the example from the state of Ohio? Maybe the MAC school there. One of them, but anyway, they'll meet them up in the NCAA tournament just to get some storylines and stuff going. Looks like they do the same with baseball.
Well, I think the storyline is not. I think it's how it kind of falls out. I think the thing that's more interesting here is that instead of them facing at a neutral site, TCU's got to go to Schlossnagel's house now. And he obviously knows all the kids on their roster. So just an interesting kind of. And I don't know that in any other sport but college baseball do you see this as much. And I think a lot of it is these coaching trees are so closely intertwined that the relationships, relationships are there.
A lot of big names here in the Louisville regional. They're the 12 national seed. Louisville, Oregon, Michigan, Southeast Missouri State. Michigan won the Big Ten tournament, right?
Yes. They were the 5 seed going in, and they were not really where they needed to be. But they got caught fire. Actually, lost a pitcher for a foreign substance on his glove. It was either Friday or Saturday's game. He gets ejected, and when he gets ejected, he knew when they came out. He gave the glove, and he just basically walked off the mound, and Bakich had to come out, whatever. But so they overcame that adversity. I think it was against Iowa to win that conference tournament.
The Virginia Tech Hokies are the 4 seed nationally. East Carolina went there for a midweek game, lost earlier this year. East Carolina's played a lot of these teams we're talking about, by the way. We can go back to your point. Gonzaga is the 2, Columbia the 3, Wright State the 4. Mully.
Yeah, Virginia Tech. We've seen Virginia Tech be really, really bad, and then they had a resurgence several years ago. I'm going to say 10, 15 years ago, where they were really, really good, and then kind of fell off. And now it looks like they've got that program back in the obviously not. It doesn't look like they've got that program back where they wanted it. They'll be. That's a scrappy lot, and they've always been scrappy. Now they're scrappy and talented.
Florida, the 13, has Oklahoma, Liberty, Central Michigan. The Chippewas have awesome uniforms. Saw those. They're like mustard yellow. Get a look at those beauties.
Yeah, if you like those.
And ECU and Liberty have met over the years. Hadn't seen them, I feel like, in a couple years, but got some ties there, right?
Yeah, Scott Jackson that was at Carolina and was at UNC Wilmington. Is the head coach there for Liberty, and and then obviously local guy Dalton Britt. Dalton Britt played for Liberty. So
all right, smart guy. Find the connection here in the Stanford regional.
Okay,
Stanford, Texas State, UC Santa Barbara, Binghamton. You got nothing.
Stanford and East Carolina are the only two teams to have hosted 4 regionals without making it to the College World Series or something like that.
I think it's just hosting 4 years.
4 years in a row.
4 seasons in a row.
Yeah, I did see that.
All right, we'll count that.
Yeah.
College Park, Maryland to 15. If you look at it, Maryland maybe East Carolina's best win this year RPI wise, although they kind of faded there at the end RPI wise. Maryland, Wake Forest, UConn, Long Island. Talking to Malcolm Igo, those guys today, said UConn could come out of that. Wake Forest could easily come out of that. Maryland could have trouble getting out of their own regional, Mully.
You know what? You made my wheels turn back to the Binghamton. There is a local tie there.
I challenge Mully.
Catcher from Mount Olive is now a assistant coach there at Binghamton. They just did or are in the process of doing a crazy stadium renovation, like $60 million.
That's New York.
Yeah, you got to go online to look at it. It's pretty impressive. Anyway, where were we?
UConn, Wake. They got a chance against Maryland.
Wake. Yeah, Wake has been, again, kind of up and down. I can tell you that they are a team that can get hot. I mean, so yeah, now UConn, I don't know, would be less exciting to me, but I think that's an interesting matchup as well.
All right, the number 10 is North Carolina. They got Georgia, VCU, and Hofstra. North Carolina, after a down year, Mully comes back, gets the number 10 national seed. What do you think about the Tar Heels?
And again, what's a down year? I mean, they how many times have we said the same thing? These teams started off early, kind of scuffling, and now other than Tennessee. It's just a handful of teams.
Oregon State, teams that were there,
that were good and good all year.
Time.
Yeah. So I would rather have played a team that did peak early as opposed to catching a Carolina right now when they're back believing.
And Hattiesburg, Southern Miss is the 11. They got LSU, Kennesaw State, Army.
Yeah, LSU. First year. For the head coach down there, so this will be his first regional as a skipper of the Tigers.
Big names in Auburn. Auburn is the 14 national seed. UCLA, the 2. Florida State, the 3. Southeast Louisiana, who we've seen here in Greenville a few times. The Lions.
That may be the death flight there. That's a pretty good. I mean, Florida State's really good, and I mean that whole deal. That's a tough one.
Oregon State is the 3. Vanderbilt is the 2 in that regional. Oregon State, the 3 overall. Vandy, San Diego, and New Mexico State rounding out the field of 64.
Yeah, I mean, it's always so much fun, exciting again, and I think one of the things that makes it so interesting is that anybody can come out of any one of these brackets and do it. And of course, the default program we always look at is you really have 2. You mentioned Dallas Baptist that has come out of nowhere and made noise in Omaha, and then you've got obviously the Chanticleers. So college baseball is just a little bit of a different animal. I've got every team has a guy that can go out there and beat you at any time, and if your team falls asleep a little bit, it can be upset city.
ECU does not have the top end guy this year, but they have a bunch of guys. How do you handicap the Pirates pitching, Mully, heading into this kind of situation?
Typically when you go, like if you're talking about quarterbacks, you don't have, we got
if
2.
You got,
if you got 2, you don't have 1.
Right.
In this situation, and look, I don't know if everybody remembers this, and I know a lot of people were ready to flip out, but Cliff made mention that he liked this team. He thought it was the most talented team he's ever had. He felt really good about their depth.
Depth-wise, yeah.
So, the guy knows what he's doing, right? And he's the way he has managed his thing, and kudos to Austin Knight for first year pitching coach, having to manage this alongside with Cliff and obviously Coach Palumbo and going back to what Al said, Palumbo prides himself on teaching defense. If you go to a game and you're watching pregame, BP, whatever, Coach Palumbo's out there taking ground balls with the guys every game. That's what he does before he throws BP. So, and quite frankly, there's times where the first couple times, because he's kind of a slight fella, I'm like, man, who was that? That dude's got some pretty good actions. Not much arm strength anymore. He's got some pretty good actions. But anyway, he's kind of a lead by example. Jump out there and roll your sleeves up and get in it with the guys. So, from a pitching staff standpoint, I think that the easier question is, would it surprise you if I don't know, the lefty that made a couple appearances, I'm drawing a blank on his name, that's maybe got 7-8 innings this year. He had a really good midweek outing not long ago. Anyway, it's going to take somebody like that.
Beaker,
yeah, maybe,
Beaker?
yeah.
Okay.
It's going to take a guy like that that's going to go out and eat some innings. And a little sign of life. You got Cooch Maynor out there for an inning and a third, and so you start to see. I mean, you add Cooch to the fold, and you still 4 or 5 innings with a Beaker or whomever else. And the thing is, it's not like we don't know this pitching staff because we've seen them all. Right, you know what I mean? It's not like sometimes you go into the postseason and there's that guy that's never really pitched. Well, everybody here's thrown.
Yeah.
So it is truly Johnny Holstaff, and in this situation, Johnny Holstaff's pretty freaking good.
Chad asking, do we have times for the games yet? Not yet, but Cliff did say today that ECU was gonna play in that first game on Friday. So he said that playing in the second game with the weather and everything has got him off in the past. So gonna go with the early game this time around. We'll let you know when that comes out.
It seems to me like Cliff has done that more than just this time. I think he's, and to me it's more manageable because you have control over your schedule, over when you get to the ballpark, over game time. If that game before you're the second game of the day, that game before you goes 15 innings, now you're having to reinvent everything that you do to stay into your routine. So, I like that move.
All right, Molly, good stuff, man. Anything else?
No, man. I will say it again, and I will say it until I'm blue in the face. Folks, you need to drink in what's happened here and really kind of take a deep dive into it if you really care about it at all, because it is the thing of legend, and it will be something that will not long be forgotten here in Eastern North Carolina.
Check out at AUPPL on Twitter. He's got the jersey breakdown of all the regionals, Molly. It's a pretty picture.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe
which ones he got up there for us?
They got the white Pirates up there.
Yeah.
What's your favorite uniform combo?
I think that's me.
How important was that, Molly, when you were a coach and player?
It was what the pitcher wanted.
Okay, they made the call.
Yeah.
What happened to Harold yesterday?
Boy, he spit the bit.
Man,
did you see it, or were you asking because you?
I was running. I saw it when he was tied for the lead. I ran errands, went to the grocery store, made a couple other stops, got home. He was not on the leaderboard, and I'm like, okay, well, where'd he go? And so he basically went, I think, from 10 under to 3 under.
He ended up even. He shot 45 on the back. He went triple, double, triple, par, birdie, bogey.
Yeah, okay. So,
yeah, he dropped 9 or 10 shots from the 12th.
Any water involved? Or
just a couple times.
Okay.
Maybe there should have been water involved the night before. Could have been part of the problem.
Hey.
But, yeah, no, it was a meltdown. But you know what? With that dude, he's walking up 18 kind of after, and he's kind of, I guess it's after it's over, and he kind of looks at his cat and he's smiling. He's like, but man, I'm sitting there thinking, it cost him $1 million.
Yeah.
It cost him $1 million, but, anyway.
Jay says, surprised that State didn't get some kind of benefit of the doubt after what happened to them last year. That's going to be the talk as far as the snub goes.
I agree.
NC State.
I agree. What if there is maybe an NIT for baseball?
I don't know.
Yeah, so. You know what? That's how unfair, or how I say unfair. How kind of, I don't know how smart alecky the baseball gods are. If State does what they did last year and they lose out due to the whole COVID thing, and then they kind of don't make it this year. And look, that's a team I wouldn't want to face.
I'm glad old Tommy Tanks is not coming to Greenville. I can tell you that.
Yeah, again, that's a team I just don't think you really want to face them if you don't have to.
Man, all right. So Mully, enjoyed it, man. This was fun, and next year we'll have our command center ready to go. Might just watch it live and take your comments like we did today. But no Pirate Radio Live today. We'll be back with you on Tuesday. And Mully, we'll plan to talk to you later this week.
Sure.
Do another preview with it. That was fun, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Glenn, awesome work, man. Appreciate you doing what you do. Great job by Glenn and Jenny earlier today. You can check out our social media. We'll have interviews with Cliff Godwin, a lot of the players, pictures, all that good stuff. And we'll be back with you Tuesday talking about it all on Pirate Radio Live. So appreciate you folks. Have a great rest of your Memorial Day, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.